If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. You need to know where you're going. You need to have that North Star. Just because you have the title and the leader, you expect people to follow you. Just it's an expectation, but that's not the right expectation. You want them to want to follow you. This younger generation screams for authenticity. They want transparency at the highest level in the organization. They don't want smoke and mirrors. They want authenticity. They want people to be genuine. They want to get to the truth as quickly as possible. You could either choose to be a meaningful, specific, or a wandering generality.
So we are on, the recording's on. So Michael, welcome to the first episode of Authentic Sales Leader Podcast. This is our second season. This is the first time, although I am coming in as the host. And my idea with this second season is to make it a little bit different. You know me a little bit. I like doing things a little bit differently. So that's what we're going to try to do. So today, I'm super excited. You know, it's an honor to be starting out with you, having gotten to know you over the last year or two. I think your journey is not just fascinating. I mean, it's more than fascinating. It's something that I look up to, and I think there's a lot that the listeners of this podcast will have to take away from it. I doubt if there'll be many people. You know, you can probably tell us who've worked with both David Sandler as well as Zig Ziglar. I think we've all just heard things that they have said. So you've had that opportunity to do that closely over the years. And then fast forward to today, I speak to a lot of sales leaders, but I think your ability, Sandler's ability to adopt AI is probably something that a lot can learn from. You know, so AI is here. I'd love to talk more about that. I think there's going to be a lot to carry away from that as well. But we'll turn this into just a freewheeling conversation. This is going to be an exciting one, both for me personally, as well as I think anyone who's going to be listening to it, in terms of what makes one an authentic sales leader. We talk a lot about authenticity, and we want to mean that. What does it take as a person? What does it take as a professional? Because I think both things come together. So welcome once again. You've got your coffee. I've got my drink. I'm lucky that I am in India right now, so it's evening. Cheers to that. And let's get started. Welcome, Michael.
Oh, thank you, Amarpreet. It's been a pleasure to know you over this last year or so. And I love the T-shirt you're wearing, by the way. I'm an extra large, so if you don't mind saying.
Next time you got it. Next time I meet.
Proudly wear it. And in the spirit of authenticity, I would tell you, I never actually had a chance to meet David Sandler. He passed away. He passed away in 1997, way too early in life. But I've listened to every recording he ever made, watched every video that was captured of him. But on our franchise side, we have so many people who are still in the network who had the honor and privilege of learning right from David Sandler. And so I feel like I've been blessed in the fact that, I had a 12-year run with Zig Ziglar. Prior to that, I was a student and disciple of Zig Ziglar. So literally 1986 was the first time I ever listened to a Zig Ziglar cassette tape. We're going back that far. And
a different world.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the legends of the industry, Amarpreet, really shaped my career. So you think, guys like Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins, Brian Tracy, David Sandler, Dennis Waitley. My car was loaded with every program that anyone was. I had like a milk crate in my trunk, like many people who might be watching this who are around my age. We had all those programs, and Zig Ziglar used to call it Automobile University. So while you're driving as a salesperson from stop to stop, you are listening to somebody's content, and that was just so powerful for me.
So, Michael, I'm going to start out. I want to get to know you better, and I think the listeners here today, yes, they can learn from Zig and David and all those legends, as you said. But I think many of us look up to you as as someone in a similar vein. So I think there's going to be a lot to carry away. But let me start off by asking you this: what are one or two or three or 10 things about Michael Norton that are too good to be true, but are actually true? I know a bit of your life story. I think you'll have a few. So what are those things?
That's a humbling question.
Go for it. Let's share some, with the people.
In my journey as a child through, being raised in Sunday school and then becoming a teenager and being rebellious and getting back into the church and then away again and, finding the party life and finding the corporate chasing the the corporate, climbing the corporate ladder, dreams and whatnot along the way, and then finally settling back in as, into my faith and grounded in my faith. When that moment happened, it changed everything in my life. And so I give all the honor and credit and glory to God for where I am right now.
Also, for those of you who've known Michael, but maybe not known him all the way. So Michael's a man of faith. So, and I think in today's world, there's not many people. My belief, Michael, is everyone's got to have an anchor, right? So we have to find our anchor in life.
Yeah, as Mr. Ziglar used to say, you can either choose to be a meaningful specific or a wandering generality. And so I chose
meaningful
to be
specific or
meaningful specific.
Wandering generality. I think those are
deep.
Very precise, specific, and deep words, as you said.
Anybody who knows me who will wind up watching this. And you and I have had many discussions around DISC, and DISC is embedded in Humantic. And when I take the DISC test, like when I've taken it my whole life, I've taken it, I don't know, probably 20 some odd times over the years. I always test out at an extremely high D. And anybody who knows me, when I'm in the game, I'm in the battle and I'm trying to win. When I'm working out, when I'm doing it, skiing, even tackling the mountain, I go all D. I'm driven, I'm direct, I'm all in. But if you read the columns that I write, if you read more about me, and I think this kind of a lot of it transitioned when my first wife had battled cancer and then eventually passed away.
I'm sorry.
My S, which was always in the basement, it was like high D, a little high, I. S was in the basement, and a tiny little bit of C. Right, it was my makeup. And we know that your DISC style stays the same unless some kind of major life event happens. And that was a major life event, losing my wife. And, at that point, I think my S came out, and I started becoming really, more about everybody and less about me. And I think as authentic sellers, there's a lot of traits that we need to have. But making about the other people around you, whether they're prospects, customers, family, friends, when you make it all about them,
Well, I don't think you can really be an authentic seller, Michael, unless you're an authentic person, right? So you probably got to start, where it matters. You have to be an authentic person, an authentic human, not a compliant, not a nice. I'm not talking about being nice. I'm talking about being authentic. I'm talking about, standing up for what is right, what's not. When you stand in front of that mirror, right, can you look yourself in the eye and say, I'm okay, right? I'm okay. I'm no great, but I'm okay. And I will continue to be okay. So I think that's an important part. Apart from your faith, you spoke a little bit about, others. What else is central to being Michael Norton?
Talent without effort breeds mediocrity. And I never wanted to be mediocre. I don't care. I mean, I can go back to when I was 12 years old and playing Pop Warner football. I didn't want to be mediocre. Like, I didn't want to settle for average. I wanted to be better. And it's funny, like this timing. I'm always reading. I'm always researching. I'm always writing, something. And I stumbled upon a reel, and it's not the first time I saw it or heard it, by Nick Saban, the head coach of the former head coach now, the Alabama, university football team. And I literally just heard this yesterday, Amarpreet, or watched his film, watched the reel of it. And he said, we have a choice in life. All my players have a choice in life. They can be bad. They can be average. And it's a choice. You can choose to just be bad. You can choose to be average. You can choose to be good. You can choose to be excellent. Or you can choose to be elite. And as like in today's highly competitive sales world or business landscape, whether you're a leader or a manager or a salesperson, a customer service person, operator, whatever it is, like, I want to surround myself with those people who want to be elite. Like, I want to be the best, and I want to be around the people who are the best, because I get better being around those people who are elite. And again, it goes back to what we just talked about a little, that statement that Zig had. You can choose to be a wandering generality or a meaningful specific. And in order to be a meaningful specific, you have to know where you're going. It's not just because if you don't, I forget whose quote this is, but if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Right? It's like Stephen Covey, had a story in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where he talks about the guy who's in Seattle trying to find his way around, but he's looking at a map of Detroit. You need to know where you're going. You need to have that North Star, right?
Yeah.
You need to have that North Star to, especially as a leader, if you're going to want because you're a leader, just because you have the title and the leader, you expect people to follow you. It's an expectation, but that's not the right expectation. You want them to want to follow you. You want them to want to see the North Star and go after it with you.
But can you want people? Can people follow you if you try to please everyone, or do you have to learn to just let some people go and let them be whatever they be and whatever they say?
Yeah, so next week's column that I wrote, because I always have to write it a week in advance. I did a little talking about this. And no, you as a leader, you're never going to please everybody. There's just no chance you're going to please everybody.
There's no chance.
And but a true leader, see, the problem with some leaders is they try to please everybody, and all that does is create a lot of waffling and speaking in this moment about this to this group of people because you're saying what you think they want to hear, and then over here you're saying to this group that what they want to hear, and that's just not it's not. Look at your t-shirt. Being authentic is an authentic leader. What I found over all of these years, and I've had plenty of leaders that I've reported up to, and I didn't always agree with where they were going or what they said or the decision that they made. But what I respected in those leaders is that they made the decision, they stood firm in that decision, and they didn't waffle. And that I can get behind.
Yeah, we all know these things. Then why do, when the situation becomes tough, why do many people or even majority, of the people kind of buckle up, when we know what is the right thing to do? What is making you buckle up?
Well, in today's world, Amarpreet, I think nobody wants to be canceled, right? And it's the wrong.
That's a good one, yeah.
It's killing us to not be able to say or deal with the truth. So there's a big challenge in today's workforce. There's a huge challenge, and it's the at your wage kind of thing. They want to get away with doing as little as possible. There's no resiliency, and I sadly don't know the culture as well as I should in India or other parts of the globe. But here in the United States, we did our children. We did the generation X, generation Z, millennials. We did them such a disservice in life. When they played sports, it didn't matter what it was: basketball, baseball, hockey, football. Everybody got a trophy. We had trophy parties. We had to take our kids to the ice cream parlor, hand out trophies, and nobody won. Like, we're paying the price of that right now because salespeople are being told no over and over again, do not have the resiliency. They just don't. And it's frustrating to them. And they wind up leaving where we, who wanted a trophy on my mantle as a kid, we damn well have better won the game, or won the season, or, won the event, whatever it was. We didn't get a trophy for just showing up.
Do you think we think like that because we are the older generation? I mean, I am, pretty much older generation too, or almost getting there. Do you think we think that way? Because all generations probably think theirs was the better one and this one is not. Sometimes I wonder that is what it is. It's just changing. Or is it really true that, the resilience is not there? The cancel culture's really permeated everything. Sometimes people would say snowflakes, right? So younger generation. Is that real, or are we just because we're old and we think our thing was the real thing and this is not the real thing?
No, and I am a huge advocate of trying to. Let me say it a different way. So right now, it is no different than it was 30, 40 years ago when I got to the workforce. We always had a multi-generational workforce. There's always people coming out of college, people 3 to 5 years in industry, 5 to 10, 15 to 20, 25, and then they retire. We always had those breakdowns of a generation, but never in the past did we actually label it as Gen Z, Gen Y, Millennial, Gen X, Boomer, traditionalist, whatever that's made up of now. But it's important that we do that. And I'm actually doing a lot of research on this right now, and I'm going to be writing a paper on it. This multi-generational workforce, not just in sales. And the interesting thing to me is that everything that I'm reading right now and kind of bringing together is that this younger generation screams for authenticity. They want transparency at the highest level in the organization. They don't want smoke and mirrors. They want authenticity. They want people to be genuine. They want to get to the truth as quickly as possible. And you look at the way that they prefer to communicate. You look at the way that they prefer to, what their style of communication is, and you look at the way that they learn, the ways that they like to learn. We have to take that into consideration because of how they grew up in that generation.
I think partially the question I asked you, partially I think it just happens. We are the older generation. We think our time, our way of life was a better way of life. Partially, I think that is true. But I also think because our situations, right, our circumstances shape us up, right, as people. And circumstances today are not the same as what they were 20 years ago or 30 or 50 years ago. Like I'll give you an example. I know we spoke a little bit about it, earlier. So one thing with India, right? I'm sitting in Bangalore right now. Is India is very, very diverse, like huge, very diverse. Different kind of people. They look different. They speak different. Their lifestyles different. Culture, values, everything is different. So major differences. So stark differences, right? Differentiation becomes easier because it is just so stark. Now, I come from a part of India that um, that sort of borders, the region from where all the invaders would come traditionally. Because you cross, there's a Himalayas extension called Hindu Kush Mountains, which is between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and there's a couple of passes there. That's from where everyone in Central Asia, Europe, would come. And what that did, and I'm talking about how your circumstances shape you up, is that people who bore the brunt of those attacks, who were on the front lines, sort of, they became different or very different than people. For example, I'm in the southern parts of India, than people out here who didn't probably have to fight as many wars and face as many invaders. And that's brought some differences. For example, in terms of bravery, if you look at, if you just go by facts, right, not just opinions, but if you look at the number of medals, bravery medals awarded to Indian armed forces, a disproportionate number of them have gone to people from that region. Today, you'll say, oh, we are like this, you're like that. But also on the other side, a lot of accolades on the academic side belong to people from some other regions. So back to the point, our circumstances do shape up. So I do think there are differences between generations, and there is some factor what we speaking about, and maybe there's some not as much.
Yeah, and there's not that it's, as you're saying, it's not wrong. It's just different. I'll give you a great example. I was coaching a group. I was coaching a sales group, and I was the sales manager, had his salespeople in the room, and I was on Teams or Zoom. I forget which one it was, and I'm doing some coaching with them, and he's making the point that like his team is young, they'd rather be on their phone, doing, and he takes his camera and he points it to somebody in the room, and he goes, look at John, look there. It's on his phone, and I'm like, I can see it's on his phone, and what does John do? He turns his phone around and he goes, I'm taking notes.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah.
He goes, I'm not surfing the web. I'm not on, Facebook. He goes, this is how I take my notes. So I always have them with me. And so it was a kind of a big aha moment for that manager to be like, oh, yeah, that's how he grew up.
Hey, there you go. I think that's a beautiful example. So Michael, jumping over a little bit, from what makes, us what we are and what makes you what you are, to the professional side. Why sales? How was it an accidental choice, as it happens for many? Was it, this is it? This is sort of like my thing to do. Why sales?
It was definitely by accident. For me, I was in the Coast Guard, United States Coast Guard, and I wanted to, make it my career. That was my goal. But due to a couple of injuries, I couldn't stay in. I couldn't re-enlist, and so I came out. I'm like, okay, what does a 22, 23-year-old do with his life who didn't go to college and was in the military and is not going to make a career in the military? And the only thing it seemed that I was suited for at the time was looking at ads in the paper of potential jobs was a sales position. No experience necessary. We will train you. You just have to bring the heart and the desire. And like I said earlier, to me, everything is all about competition and trying to win. I'm a gamer, and so I stumbled into a sales career and actually fell in love with it.
So was it the competitive aspect, push yourself? Was it that made you fall in love with it, or was it something else?
If I had the skill, the talent, the speed, the strength, I could be a professional athlete, but I couldn't. Or, if I was musically inclined to be able to sing or, play an instrument, I could make $1 gazillion as an entertainer. But absent of that, There's no career that can allow you to give yourself a raise every single day other than sales. You are in control of your destiny. So the number one reason people get into it is because they want to make money. The second reason is, I don't think in all my years, there was rarely a time where I had an office. And if I had an office, I was never in that office. It was always out. Like my schedule was my own. And I'm calling out prospects, I'm visiting clients, I'm doing whatever I want to do. But, if there's an afternoon I want to, take off and play golf, I would go off and play golf. So I had a very flexible, schedule but I was making my number. Anybody watching this, one of the biggest misnomers or, misconceptions is you watch your star salespeople in your company taking off every Friday or taking off here and there to go play golf. Well, they earned it. Their book of business speaks for itself. You got to get there. So you young sellers, you got to get there. And the last thing is have fun. I don't think I've ever had a not fun day in this profession. It's just every scenario is different. This is never the exact. No matter, you could be selling your whatever product or service it is, and that product or service isn't changing. But every customer you call on is going to have maybe a different way that they're going to apply it or use it and talk about it, and wherever they are in the pain gain scale. So every single interaction for me, and now it's even just on Zoom and Teams with my salespeople, every conversation is different. Even though we're talking about the same thing, it's all unique, and I love that. It's so much fun to have those conversations with people.
So tell me more about that one. I think that's one thing I am bad at. I'm very bad at having fun. I wish I was a more fun person. I'm more intense than I would like to be. So and maybe this is there are more people like me out there. So how do you make it fun? Like if by default it is not. If you are that person, it's just fun. Exciting it is for me, but fun not. So how is there a way? Is there a method to making it more fun?
You cannot be emotionally attached to the outcome. You are never, as a salesperson, going to bet 1,000%. You are not going to close every single opportunity that you have. I don't care how good you are. But if it's going to be a no, that's okay. It's really okay. You're not punching me in the face. You're not hurting me. No is okay. And the more that you can understand that, the more fun you can have in those sales calls and those opportunities and throughout your day. We also teach at Sandler this whole IR theory, who you are as an individual and who you are in your role. Because every one of us has a role: husband, father, parent, grandfather, coach, right? Employee, employer. We all have this role that we play. But on the other side of the scale, we are people. And on a scale of 1 to 10, you can check this out, Amarpreet. Just ask anybody in your circle of friends, family, at your office and say, where would you grade yourself? I'll ask you, Amarpreet. On a scale of 1 to 10 as a person, where are you?
As a person, well, that's a hard one. I don't know. I'll say 8.5. I think I'm all right.
Yeah, that's higher than most people will say. You'd be amazed at how many people say they try to just play it down. I'm a 5. But here's the truth.
No, I mean, I want to be honest. I think I try pretty hard. I mean, it's not easy. I don't think I'm perfect, so hence I'm not saying I'm a 10. There's a lot that I can do better.
Here's what I'm going to push back on you. And again, I've only known you over a little year or more than a year, so we're going to get to see each other in a few weeks. You're a 10, Amarpreet. As an individual, as a person, you're a 10. God doesn't make any junk. Never. When you came out of your mom's womb, when you were born into this world, and nothing impacted, not society, not politics, not division, not work, not anything. You came out as a child, as a brand new baby. You were 10. You were perfect in your mom's eyes.
I love that perspective. Yeah.
Change. So when we see ourselves, because the world will try to chew us down. Like we can use our words to either build each other up and coach each other and give each other hope and encouragement, or the world is filled with people who want to tear us down. And if you let the outside noise filter in to tear you down, your 10 starts to erode and become a 9, an 8.5, an 8. And it's not. It's like every day you wake up and say, "Man, I'm a 10. I don't care what happens to my role. I might go for the next month and not make a sale. I'm 0 for 30, right? But I'm still a 10. I'm not going to let what happened in my role life affect who I am, because the better I can be, the better I see myself, the more I can pour out onto other people."
Well, that was a fascinating chat with Michael, but it's just half the story. Watch out for the second half of our conversation in the next episode of the Authentic Sales Leader Podcast.
Point to the person that is sleazy and slimy and manipulative and not trustworthy and all the things you guys just said about salespeople. What we haven't figured out in the corporate world is that we can't take our top sellers and turn them into managers overnight. He's got a rule that says, all buyers are liars. Like, if you're going to ask me what's the number one trait that a salesperson can master that would have the greatest impact on their ability to sell, it's having the ability to